Christ on all, and welcome to the latest episode of the Fearless in Devotion podcast, a midweek special. We have Andy Gilpin, we have Liam Randy, we have Tim Edwards in a Bratislava airport, and myself, Andrew Pollard, rocking around in Wrexham in my little flat here. Just to say before we get into this, if you want Stockport reaction, if you want extra previews, complete with comments from Mickey Thomas, that is on the previous episode that can now be found elsewhere on the channel. This one is all about the finances, and quick finances. A shout out to our sponsors, the Fat Ball Group, the Fat Ball in Mode Wrexham, Hill Street Social, Mike Gwyn Hall, FE's a Carnivore, Bucking Banger, and Croyce Howell. I feel like I should say it really slowly just for you, Andy Gilpin. But yes, our full finances are for the year ending in June 2024 are due out officially next week. But we've had our first glimpse of it. Liam, we'll come to you on this, but there's a lot of numbers to get through. But you were there, Canary Wharf, where you are saddled up to Andy there. You were there to get the inside scoop on this.
Very rare we appear together, isn't it?
It is, yeah. We're not often seen in the same room, but sadly I've had to come to London where I've already been robbed and unappreciated. So
just by Andy, is that? Yeah.
Yes, yeah, just by Andy. Just by Andy.
In the last 20 minutes.
Yep. So the accounts make very interesting reading. I think the headline figure is that revenue has gone up to 26.7 million. Now, this is for the period when Wrexham was still a League Two club, so year ending June 24. That's bigger than 7 Championship clubs, including Blackburn, Cardiff, Hull, Plymouth, Preston North End, QPR, Sheffield Wednesday, and pretty much every club in League One. So one of the most obvious reasons for that is documentary, but not only that, sort of the sponsorships that the club have been able to leverage off the back of that with United Airlines and Stock. Both of those kicked in that year. So that's gone up from 1.8 million in 22-23 to 13.1 million. Despite that impressive turnover, there is an overall loss of 2.7 million down to expenditure, around 800,000 of which was bonuses triggered by promotion to League One. So clearly we've got to reward all the players for their shit-hot performances. And another big thing, and then we'll chat about it a bit more, is since this accounting period, so not in the period covered by the accounts, the club has now repaid loans of 15 million quid back to Rob and Ryan. So shareholder loans are clear, essentially. The decks are clear on that.
Yeah, it's there's a lot to take in here, and I like the fact that because obviously this has been circulating now through all the usual outlets, whether it's the Leader in the Post or to like the Red Tops or to like the New York Times are covering it because
the Red Tops.
The Red Tops, yeah.
By that,
yeah. I'm not naming and shaming those rags. I would never dream of it.
You can't move for Red Tops in this building. So.
Yeah, I can imagine. But there are so many numbers to break down there. I mean, just even match day revenue has gone up from 3.1 million to 5 million. The fact that 52.1% of our revenue was generated outside of Europe, which is up from 24.6% last season. Obviously, of course, primarily this is North America where that's coming from. So there's some massive numbers here. Just trying to break it down. I mean, as you mentioned there, the fact that the loss as well. Oh, yes, it's an overall loss, but it's down from a 5.1 million pound loss.
That's interesting. There's a couple of things that really interest me. The fact that, yes, the losses are going down, and we were told that they would go down year on year. You know, I don't think anyone really believed that they would, but yeah, they're going in the right direction. We've been told that there'll be zero loss at some point. Again, it's running a football club. You just can't see that there won't be some loss somewhere, especially when you're doing big sort of set pieces like cops and training grounds. The other thing is paying the loans back to the owners. Now, I know in the mission statement they said there would be no loans levied against the club, but I think you have to forgive them a little bit because I don't think they realised how hard it would be to get something like a cop off the ground. And there's a lot of things that went with that. I know they've talked a lot of times about red tape and how they were held up a little bit. So that's been a longer project than they thought. So I can understand the need for loans. I think, it was only rightly that there had to be an interest rate with the loans. They just couldn't be sort of free money. But I think it is quite interesting that they're paid off. Rob and Ryan are completely the money owed to Rob Ryan is completely gone now, as is the interest rate that's gone with it. You sort of think, and I don't know if Liam knows a little bit more about this. How much are they actually in with the club at the moment then?
Also, there's been various share issues. I think it seems pretty certain that the Allen family are the people who have essentially helped to clear these loans to the owners. I can't remember all the share issues off the top of my head, but
the Caxers one, isn't it?
Yeah.
I would say there would be three share issues at the moment.
Yes.
The club that Rob and Wright, is it McReynolds or something?
R.L. McReynolds.
Yes, that's one. I think the Allen family would be the other, and then the other group is the percentage owned by the Caxer.
I believe it shapes up roughly. These are rough figures: about 5% from the Caxer, 15% for the Allens, and then 80%, I believe, with Rob and Ryan. I mean, just looking at the sponsorship, Tim, we'll come to you to see if you can dissect these numbers in a Bratislava airport after a heavy night watching the football and partying. But I mean, just like the sponsorship, the year before when we've got promotion from the National League, 1.9 million in sponsors. The last season, it's 13.2 million. That is just ridiculous jump. What do you make of all of this while you're hungover in an airport at the other side of the world?
I'm not hungover now. I'm all right. I'm doing all right. Yeah, it's kind of crept up upon me out of nowhere, and then when you see the figures that are floating around, it still seems very surreal. I know it's probably a bit more real for Liam and Andy having sort of had to dissect it for a job purpose as well, but it's still odd. It's still massively odd, but I think this kind of flies in the face of what a lot of people from the outside were hoping for. They were saying, "Oh, financial fair play is going to get them. This is going to happen. That's going to happen." When you see it in black and white, you kind of get the feeling that, well, the club is being run diligently. It's being run well. Obviously, like Andy said, there's always going to be a loss when you're running a football club, but I think, comparatively, when you see the turnover and you see the loss, it's just ridiculous. It's wild. And I think this is still the tip of the iceberg, really. Those sponsors that come on board, they've come on board for a reason, for the growth, and they've seen which way it's heading and which way it continues to head, as an overall, don't want to use the word project because I hate that, but in terms of an identity and kind of like not a cultural thing, but you can just see what it's done for them. And I'm pretty certain that the way it's going to happen is we're going to see bigger and bigger sponsors coming aboard. I just can't see how it can be any other way. So I think this is literally just the start of things to come. And yeah, it's exciting. It's massively weird, but it is exciting. And yeah, it doesn't seem real to me even now, but let the rest of the fume commence when people see the figures and they go, "Oh, well, blah blah blah," and all negativity. But it is a positive news story. These are positive figures, and I never thought I'd see the day where we'd be putting those figures as a plus and not a minus, and scrambling around the basement bin for players not that long ago. So it's just absolutely wild.
Yeah, I thought we were gonna have to sustain for our entire existence off the Danny Ward money. That was what everything was. That's what we were all at one point in time. That felt like it was. I mean, it is nuts. And again, to reiterate, these figures are from when we were a League Two club. The fact that we bring in more revenue than 7 Championship clubs at that point in time is just nuts. Liam, because you've got the inside scoop on that, then to come back to you. I mean, not to take anything for granted, but should we, by hook or by crook, get over the line and get up to the Championship, this bodes extremely well, surely.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at these figures for a League Two club, you can only imagine what basically every division you go up, you're going to be able to leverage more. For instance, I'm pretty sure every Wrexham game has been on broadcast in the US this season. I think pretty sure, more than Leeds United and teams like that. So it just grows the exposure even more. And I think also it's interesting in the accounts because there's sort of a mixed narrative. On the one hand, they're saying the documentary has delivered a lot of this success, and the more we're successful, that's also potentially likely to trigger more documentary seasons. But they're also talking about long-term, looking at ways to make sure the club isn't just reliant on the documentary, but it still feels for me like it is at the moment. So the next series is nearly finished filming. Obviously, it'll coincide with the end of this season. I don't think another season's been commissioned beyond that yet, but I just get the impression behind the scenes they're quietly confident that as long as it's doing well for Disney, FX, Hulu, etc., then it is highly likely to continue. So I don't see that sort of ending anytime soon. I think that'll be important moving forward into the championship as well, if we get there. We get there.
I have to look on the again, this is probably the pessimistic Wrexham fan in me, but say that there was no new season of a documentary, and there was no season 5, and that was it. How much would that impact us, do you think, in terms of, obviously, that?
I mean, are the club receiving direct money from the documentary? I don't think they are. Where they are actually benefiting is the interest. So every time there's a new season, it gets promoted, new people come on board, they start watching, they get an affinity for the club, they want to buy something, they want to travel over, they want to add to the match day experience. That's where the true power of the documentary is. Now, that doesn't mean that suddenly all goes away when the documentary stops. There'll still be quite a high residual of people who are now invested with Wrexham, who've now done it for a couple of seasons. They may be an American sports fan, but this is now their soccer club. I don't think that will finish. It's just having that every year. It's self-renewing, isn't it? It keeps the old people interested, and it gets some new people in as well. And it's that sort of added interest each year that really, really helps the club. So, if the documentary finishes tomorrow, you would still think there's enough interest there to have a very well supported, globally supported championship club.
Don't say
steady. But talk about the match day experience, and it is match day revenue again in League Two. £5 million, which is up from 3.1 million the previous 12 months. And again, some of that is credited to the erection of the temporary stand. Steady on, especially when you two sat next to each other and we can't see your lower extremities. But yeah, when you take into account as well that temporary stand that's only one hand. The temporary stand was only up for part of that season in League Two. This season in League One at the moment, that's been up for the whole season, packed out pretty much every game. So it's just, with me seeing all these numbers now, I'm just really eager to see this season, the League One seasons, which obviously we're not going to get for another 12 months. But Tim, to go back to you, this is just crazy to look at these numbers when you consider, the shit that we've been through, the fine lines between survival and just going completely bust. The fact that we've had times when players have gone without wages, management have gone without wages, day-to-day staff have gone without wages, and here we are looking at a revenue of 26.7 million pounds.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? It's just like I said before, none of it will seem real until you kind of see it in black and white. But I think the big thing for me is that people that have said all along, they'll get bored. It's never a long-term project. But I think we're starting to see now the full fruits of the labour of the initial 4 years, if you like. So it was all about steadily building it through the documentary, through other avenues. I don't know in terms of the breakdown, if there's anything regarding shirt sales or anything like that. I don't know if it's broken down in that respect.
I think that's just part of merchandise.
There's a retail revenue figure, which is retail revenue 4.5 million, up from 3.4 million.
And even that is still a drop in the ocean yet, because we haven't really secured a sort of stateside distribution deal, if you like, which you would like to think is going to be on the cards in some respect or another. It's great that it's in like classic football shirts because of Rob's investment into that, but I think there's going to be other avenues that haven't even been explored yet. I mean, the documentaries, it's not even been released to the Far Eastern market yet.
I think it is coming soon, isn't it? I think it's coming soon.
Yeah, and like when that happens, if the demand, and we know what, the sort of Far East, how much they love football. So if the demand is there for that, then surely that creates even more reason to keep the documentary rolling. And I can't see. I know a few people said, well, every kind of story has a shelf life, but I think with this it can just go and go because of where it's going. And then, but with that, you've got to document the bad times, and there'll be some rough ones. If we do go up, there's going to be some heavy losses, and then the sort of the sick fan bases, of which there are many, will be delighted to watch that on repeat. and see, oh yeah, I want to see Wrexham get good stuff in. So there's various ways in which we can expand on what we've got without being too greedy. But I genuinely think that while these figures are absolutely mind blowing, I genuinely think this is still just the start of it. I can't see any reason why it would be. And I think the Allen family have come in the background, quite low key, has to be said. You know, so Eric's putting in like appearances here, there, and everywhere. Nice guy, just chilling out. And then all of a sudden, I think their involvement will become more obvious and more gradual as the years pass by, and kind of like a handover of sorts in a financial aspect. You know, I think that's safe to say. We all know what their background is and what their intentions are. They've made that clear. So, and I think they're doing it in a diligent way. They're not just coming in strong arming their way and so we're going to do this, and promise us the earth. They're just coming in, putting their faces back, similar to what Rob and Brian did, obviously in a different manner. Like, we want to earn your trust. We want to show you what we can do, what we're capable of, rather than just chucking everything into one basket to begin with. So I think it's almost like a clever marketing ploy within a marketing ploy without them even knowing it. You know, so I think it's just mad. It's mad that we're sat here. And, you know, I've just been a few days in various places with Cardiff fans and Swansea fans, and yeah, their recent managerial appointments, you'd have to argue, are probably the cheaper option. So you compare to the situation they're in and where we are, and how we can potentially trade places with one of them and keep growing and flying the leagues is, yeah, it's amazing. It is amazing.
I mean, I did see some comments from some people where they would. It was almost if they were going out their way to try and spin some negative out of this. And these are Wrexham fans. And again, I can be a pessimistic, cynical Wrexham fan again because that's just been drilled into us for so many years. But are there any negatives that we can see from any of this whatsoever right now?
I would
No
say
chips for a quid. No chips for a quid.
yeah, no chips for a quid's a big one. One thing I've sort of thought of when I looked at it is your turnover figure is 26.7 million. How are you then posting a loss? So I just think it's worth just for people to know, you know, what the expenditure, the biggest expenditure's gone on. So the wage bill is now £11 million, so that's gone up significantly. But just to be clear, that's not just players, so that's not just a playing squad for League Two, because that would be pretty ridiculous if it was. I think the club's got now approaching, for this period, got approaching 250 employees. So included within that now are a number of youth players, the women's team after they went semi-pro following their promotion as well. And obviously a club like Wrexham, growing club's got a lot of background staff that you don't necessarily see or hear from, but keeping things ticking behind the scenes. Stadium maintenance, we all know that's a big one. That was £2.8 million. That includes stuff like they've now got fancy Wi-Fi. If anyone hasn't made use of that yet,
What?
free Wi-Fi.
Have they?
Yeah. So make use of that if you can. Now the interesting one for me is legal and professional costs, £4.96 million. Now I don't know the size of the chunk that I'm just about to talk about, but basically part of that figure goes to Ryan's company Maximum Effort and Rob's company More Better, which is for the marketing of the documentary, because obviously you see it where there's billboards in the US and bloody everywhere for the documentary, so obviously there's costs involved with that, and also for managing stateside sponsorship deals. Wrexham don't really have a massive commercial department, so clearly there's expectations when you've got a tie-up with a company like United. So, you know, when you had United Day or whatever it was called the other day at the Stockport game, you know, so someone has to manage all these things. So that's what they'll say for their part is the club doesn't have the necessary people yet to run all that side of things. And also they say that they're charging it at market rate. But I just thought that was an interesting
It's a lot.
little
It's a lot
side
of money.
note.
I mean, that is more than what we brought in from retail.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I don't know what chunk of that has gone to their companies, because within legal and professional costs, I'm also going to guess that there's stuff like, you know, planning documents being drawn up, et cetera, stuff to do with the COP included within that. So we don't know what chunk has gone to the companies, but I just thought it was an interesting, particularly if you look at it cynically from the perspective the club doesn't derive a direct financial benefit from the documentary yet it's paying for the marketing. But it's hard to say with that.
It's marketing Wrexham, though, isn't it?
It is
club,
like,
it's not.
If you get off a plane in wherever, LA or something, there's a Wrexham billboard there. It's generating awareness. It's the reason why that top figure, that turnover figure is as high as it is. So it all balances out. I think it's mostly, from most people's perspectives, I think it is, largely a very positive set of accounts.
Andrew, can I just say one thing, right? What Liam was saying about the turnover, could it increase? That's fair enough. But let's just think, we've not sold a player for since they've come in. And if you sell the likes of Max Cleworth now, what are you looking at? 10 million? Mm. If you bring in another player and he kicks on and becomes a saleable asset, that turnover increases massively by just one player sale. So you say Lewis Brunt really has a great season, we sell him for 5-6 million. I mean, that's where that's what a going club can do. It can bring youth players through. It can get players at a younger age and develop them. That's what a lot of championships clubs do to balance their books, because they're still spending a lot of money on wages and all the costs around being a championship club. And that's not an avenue we've really explored yet, but we will. I think, say the likes of Harry Ashfield really kicks on and becomes a brilliant player for us. You can add that into the mix. And this is all about now getting the club to a footing where the COP is built, where the training ground, where we have the academy. There's always going to be losses and always going to be bits where we could maybe do things a little better, but we can't, because we're a club growing exponentially, off and on the field. I think the other thing is, look, the way that we've done players sort of bringing in players, it's been very specific, hasn't it? It's been get a player who's at a higher level to come in to play for us. They probably don't have a lot of resale value. Your likes of your Jack Marriott's, your Palmers, maybe even your Mullins, but that will change. And even this season, he was looking at a younger player, someone we can develop and maybe sell on if we ever need to.
Yeah, and that kind of ties into a conversation I had with Tim. I think it was last week. Tim and a certain beast about, okay, the on the field product is going extremely well, and the marketing around the club's going extremely well. But then you do get to the infrastructure of the club, like you said, the academy, the development of young players, the training ground, so you can draw in either developing your own players or you can draw in other signings. But look at our great shiny training ground, not one where we have to schedule. We're booking it for an hour like it's the sports centre and you're playing for
the leisure, like leisure centre.
Yeah, exactly. And I think again, if that is an approach to take, and I think that should be an approach to take, where you nurture your own young players or bring in younger untried players from a higher level and develop them, then yeah, that's something that needs to be looked at. Your thoughts on that, Tim?
Yeah, it's important, isn't it? Because, well, I've had this debate all week about how frustrating I find not having any sort of Wrexham players in the Wales squad. Just kind of grates on me if you're a fan of both and you go and watch them and stuff. So, I mean, we can't just pin all of our sort of great hopes on Harry Ashfield coming through the ranks, doing it, and then going on to play for Wales. It's way early in his development. It's almost certainly going to go out on loan next season, you would expect, regardless of what division we're in. So it's just massive that whilst it's great to get these players in and the experienced players and having that perfect storm to get us through divisions, there is an element on me that just feel that bit has been left behind and made, not taking it for granted, but I just feel like we've taken an eye off the ball a little bit with that and not really appreciate how important it is. So like Andy's just said, if you do get a Max who's come through the youth setup, ends up going on loan to Carnarvon during the early stage, I think it was Carnarvon, wasn't it, in January, and getting that early development in at that age. And then he's shown what he can do, but how many more do we have that are able to do that? We don't really know much about the younger players. We've sort of seen the Aaron Jameses and so on and so forth, but you just want to know where these next crop are coming from. Where are they from Wrexham? They're from the surrounding area. They're from North Wales. How and why we push them on? But I think it's important if the club are keen to play on the Welsh identity, which they have done, and quite rightly so, then shine the light on that, throw some money at it, because it is needed. It is needed, not just from a training ground purpose, but to get those players going through like the old-fashioned Brian Flynn famous production line of sort of, you know, the 90s and early 2000s. So yeah, it is a source of frustration, but sadly, not many people are probably too fussed about that at this particular moment in time. You can kind of understand that, really.
I suppose as well these days it is a better Wales team than say the last time we had. Look, I mean, go back to when we in the National League, Steve Evans managed to get into the squad at that point. Obviously, he got in when we were in League Two, but even when we played National League, you still get in the squad because of the standard, I guess. And obviously now it is a slightly higher standard to get in there, but we're in a slightly better position than we're in League One, hopefully going to the Championship. So, yeah, I feel like we should probably.
We've got, you know, Josh Sheehan has played for Bolton, played for Wales the last couple of games, so there's no reason why we can't have representation in there. We just need to make sure that pathway isn't just a pathway that comes around once every 10 years. It needs to be more regular. Obviously, you've got to be good enough to mix it, but develop them. That's what we've got to do. You know, develop them and sell them if they really want to move on. But that avenue hasn't really been truly explored yet, I don't think.
Again, I think it was last summer where we had an offer for Tom O'Connor of somewhere around about £1 million, and we just kind of, by all accounts, we let it up to him, as in, if you want to go, we'll take the money. If not, no worries. And he was in no rush to go, because why would you at the moment? And again, it's crazy for us to get that sort of offer and be able to just go, yeah, we're all right. We're all right. Especially the history of the club, where we were literally developing our younger players and selling them on to keep paying the literally season to season running of the football club. But Liam and Andy, in your lovebirds room there at Canary Wharf,
we just had a special cuddle.
People often say that Liam's my brother. I mean,
I'm much more handsome.
yeah, I'm thinking that.
I thought you were going to say I'm much more than just your brother.
I mean, come on, we're not from Coy Point.
Right, I was trying to wrap this up because we were going to keep this brief, and then you've gone and insulted a section of our fan base. So
I'm joking. I'm a
He's from Panic, so
yeah, absolutely.
And then you even sold another part of our fan base. Nice one.
Look, at the end of it, Ryan and Rob, they've had their money back from the new investors. Great. It means that those loans and those interests are over. I wasn't expecting that to happen so quickly. So it's good that we've been in a position where we can pay that off straight away. And I think we're pretty well set up now. If we do go to the Championship, all that turnover is going to skyrocket from what we get, the share of the TV deal, from what we get from, you know, it'll be a sellout every week. Look, at the end of the day, I would say that those figures are much more impressive than I was thinking. Even in my wildest dreams, I didn't think we'd get to that amount of turnover, maybe 22 million, 23, but 27's ridiculous. This is good news. It's nice to have a good news story about Wrexham finances for all the time that we've
been a good week, really, isn't it? Been a good 7 days.
Yeah. I know. Just don't balls it up for me when I go to Exeter this Saturday, please. Right, let's tie this up. And I'm sorry about Coy Point. It's an absolutely lovely place. It's really picturesque.
Panic is all right, yeah.
I love all the surrounding areas.
Kevin Russell used to call it.
Yeah. Right. Again, if you want some more on Exeter coming up the weekend, our Exeter preview, that episode is live elsewhere on the channel. So go and check that out, or elsewhere on your podcast platforms. This has been Fearless in Devotion.
Sign up to the newsletter.
We've had Liam. Sign up to the newsletter.
Yeah, there's loads about the finances in the newsletter.
There is. There will be soon. There will be soon. Yeah. Again, as ever, thank you to our sponsors, the Fat Ball Group. I won't go into all of them because Andy will scream and shout. So yes, that's been it. We'll be back on Sunday. Have fun.
See ya.
So.